Under President Cyril Ramaphosa, that choice is becoming clearer every day. As of December 2025, Ramaphosa seems ready to pull away from the United States and lean more towards groups like BRICS, which includes big players like China, Russia, India, and Brazil. This shift isn't just talk, it's backed by real actions, like hosting the G20 summit in Johannesburg, while the USA boycotts it, and signing new trade deals with China. Cutting ties with the USA could mean lost jobs, higher prices for food and fuel, and weaker security. These aren't abstract ideas. They hit families, farmers, and workers hard. By the end, you'll see why this pivot might save South Africa's pride but cost its people dearly. With the USA turning hostile, Ramaphosa is turning east and south to BRICS. Remember, BRICS started as Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa in 2009, but expanded in 2024 to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. It's a club for emerging economies tired of Western dominance. Ramaphosa has been all in on BRICS. In October 2024, he hosted the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, pushing for a new development bank to rival the World Bank. Fast forward to 2025. After Trump's G20 snub, Ramaphosa met Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Johannesburg summit. They signed deals worth $150 billion for infrastructure, including high-speed rail from Johannesburg to Durban. Xi's re-election in March 2025 gave Ramaphosa a green light to deepen ties, calling it a strategic partnership. Russia's in the mix, too. Despite Western sanctions, South Africa imported $30 billion in Russian oil in 2025, cheaper than US or European alternatives. Ramaphosa visited Moscow in July 2025, signing military tech deals, including drone parts for the SANDF, South African National Defense Force. This isn't secret. Ramaphosa said in a CFR interview in September 2025 that BRICS offers alternative financing when the IMF ties loans to tough reforms. Ramaphosa is betting on BRICS for growth. At the G20, he pushed for debt relief for African nations, something the USA blocked, but China backed with $100 billion in pledges. This alignment feels like independence. No more begging Washington. But is it ready? Ramaphosa's speeches say yes. He's striving to excel as a global South leader. White farmers feel it worst. South African oranges and grapes fed U.S. supermarkets. Post-AGOA, exports fell 25% in 2025, per Agri-SA data. One Western Cape farmer, Johan van der Merwe, told Business Day his income halved. "We grew for America, now crates rot." The BRICS deal with China helps. Exports there rose 40%, but it's not enough yet. Chinese buyers demand lower prices, squeezing margins by 15%. Plus, shipping to Asia costs more, 5,000 Rand per container versus 3,000 Rand to USA, passed to consumers as higher fruit prices, up 12% in ShopRite stores by December 2025.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa will remain a full, active and constructive member of the G20. He said this in an address to the nation in the last 24 hours after an announcement by the US President Donald Trump on social media that he basically intends to bar South Africa from participation in the G20 program next year. That's when the United States is going to take over the role of chairperson from South Africa following the conclusion of the Leaders Summit held here in Johannesburg just over a week ago now. President Ramaphosa also calling out blatant disinformation. That's in regards to the claims made by President Trump repeating the falsehoods about a white Afrikaner genocide in South Africa. Let's get the view of international relations expert and assistant director at the Center for African Studies at the Howard University, Dr. Pyokuhle Mnyandu, SABC. Doctor, first things first, where you are, is this issue, this spat between South Africa and the United States, especially around the G20, is it making any waves at all? Do people care?
Good evening to you and your viewers at Tembegile. The American political scene is like a fishbowl. Americans don't tend to pay attention to the international world or the issues therein unless they affect localized issues. So most people actually do not care. Most people are quite, we've just finished Thanksgiving. People have been traveling. The government has come back online, having had a stalemate that kept it closed for a while. So the Americans have a lot on their plate as far as their local politics, as well as their people are shopping for Christmas. So this matter actually, a lot of people that care about this matter are policy wonks and foreign policy practitioners here in Washington.
And those who do care, who you've just referenced, what is their take, especially on the basis on which President Trump is making these claims, ultimately using what is a debunked theory of a white Afrikaner genocide and land grabs to target Pretoria?
Unfortunately, this matter gets caught in the maelstrom of politicking that Washington is quite good at. So there's a partisanship that this matter quickly embodies here. The Democrats on the one side, they think it's ridiculous, and they've often spoken in quite harsh tones that are favorable to South Africa. The Republicans, on the other hand, do feel quite pugilistic. They do feel that South Africa, through a series of decisions that the country has taken, whether they are wrong or right, they do feel like South Africa does need to kind of get a punch in the nose, so to speak, on these matters. And they do feel like South Africa is punched above its weight, and it needs to be put in its place. But of course, this is quite, it's removed from the reality of South Africa as a very big middle power that is not doing more than it can. And in fact, it has lots of goodwill and social capital in the world.
What do you mean they feel that South Africa is punching above its weight? In what way?
Well, so I'll be specific. The issue of the ICC. And this is a controversial issue. This is one issue that some of us, including myself, we've been quite vocal about, that South Africa has found itself embroiled in a matter that is intractable, even for countries that neighbor Gaza. So the people here then would feel that South Africa really has no business dealing with these matters.
Following a successful G20 presidency over the last year, Trump claimed that South Africa would not be included in next year's G20 in Miami, citing a genocide unfolding against white Afrikaners, a claim Ramaphosa insists is false. He also gave the assurance that South Africa remains a founding and full member of the G20.
We must make it clear that South Africa is one of the founding members of the G20, and South Africa is therefore a member of the G20 in its own name and right. We will continue to participate as a full, active and constructive member of the G20.
Ramaphosa also asserts that despite the strained relationship, South Africa remains a friend of the US.
Despite the challenges and misunderstandings that have arisen between South Africa and the United States, South Africa remains a firm and an unwavering friend of the American people. We recall the great solidarity movement in the United States that stood by our side in our struggle for democracy and freedom.
The president says the current tensions were fueled by a coordinated disinformation campaign, both locally and abroad. He has urged those responsible to table their claims openly in the national dialogue process.
We also invite those who are spreading misinformation about our country to bring their concerns and their solutions to the national dialogue. We must never allow others to try to redefine our country and cause divisions amongst us or dictate who we are as a nation. We know who we are.
The president further thanked South Africans for hosting a successful G20 summit, saying the country's diplomacy, unity and resilience remain recognized on the global stage. Zara Groenewald, SABC News, Pretoria.